Hello everyone, it's Vike here, and back again with another deck profile video, this time with the Journey to the West deck. And I've been having a lot of fun with it just because, it's really fun to just, stall out the game with your ultimates and potentially just really annoy your opponent. And again, I've been a really big fan of Shakamon for a while, and I'm really glad they got his own deck. In this case, I'll be showcasing it on DCGO, and it's a free sim made by Hongtail and his team, so big thanks to them. So now let's just get into the video. And of course, let's start with the DigiX. And of course, in my case, I run 3 Bt14 Goemon and 2 Bt12 Digimon. This is mostly just because I want to see the draw more often than not, but I feel like the Bt12 GG is still kind of opponent to some cases just because, with something like Gokumon, you can hit 7k, that can also kill quite a bit of ultimates, so that can help well, along with the fact that if you see both on board at the same time, that's 8k, so that can even kill even more ultimates, which can be kind of nice. And say if you hit stuff with Crimson Blades, that's also really good. And of course, since you do also want to swing with a lot of your low end, this can come in handy just because it can get you a draw, and if you pair up with another card in my deck, that's 2 draws, and again, that's just really nice. But of course, if you wanted to, you could just say change up the ratios to have more of the draw code in comparison, but again, this is what I do enjoy. And let's just go with the red rookies, and that being 2 Bt14 Gatsu and 4 draw Guilmon. You could also increase the ratio of Gatsumon depending on how much decks you are facing that play by effects, but I think 2 is fine enough for me at least. And the promo draw Guilmon is still really good just because no matter what, when you swing with it, you also do get an attack. And you could easily replace this with the Bt14 Muchomon, I believe, which it's when a red Digimon becomes suspended, you draw 1, so that could also work with something like Valkyremon and Gokumon, which again, I imagine could combo up a lot. But again, I just like running this just because it's pretty much the same thing as that, so if you want to just do that, but again, full of this is pretty nice. Again, if you want to lower the ratios of this to add and change other stuff, you could do that as well. Now let's get on to some of the other rookies I run, that being just 2 Lunamon and 4 Bt16 Yukamon. Obviously, Yukamon's really important just because of the fact that you push something out of Raising and you're able to either add a Digimon or Teemo. In this case, you still need a lot of Digimon in hand just because you do cross and you don't really get a lot of advantage after just on the board. So having Yukamon is again pretty good. And Lunamon is just for when you want to bounce your level 5s or even Shakamon back to hand, just so you can use them again later on. And I really like it. And again, you could also just change up Lunamon to have 3 in it, but right now I think 2 is fine enough. Now of course, going on to the ultimates, and I pretty much run 4 of the EX6 line. They're all pretty good in their own rights, and I really just want to see just these guys because I feel a lot of the older ones just aren't as good. But again, I'll talk about a little bit of some of them in the later part, these 2 cards, but I still really like seeing all these guys no matter what. Because of course Goku deletes something 6 scale less, which can of course come up with the Digimon. Then the Sandro can actually kind of stun 2 things, which is really nice because say if there's 2 bodies, you can give something -1 and stop something else from suspending. So again, that's just 2 stuns basically because they can't really swing with -1 security check unless they get over it. And then of course Sandro is your dedicated soldier for basically almost all the other Join to the West stuff, which is really nice. And then Chokai is just a big beefy blocker, and if you pair it up with say Valkyremon, that's just again a 50k blocker, which is really good. And I just want to see all these guys as soon as possible, so that's why I also run a lot of draw cards and whatnot. And for my megas, I just run 2 Valkyremon, 4 Venusmon, and 1 Seraphimon. Of course, Valkyremon is just really solid overall because it can deal with a lot of wide boards and kind of just be really annoying because you also have to think about its alternate effects, and I really like it for that. Venusmon just because I think it's a mandatory mega for the deck just because it gives boards -1 check along with not being able to activate when attacking when digivolving, and I think that's really good for the deck just because you can constantly apply it. And so is just here for like a random or cover here and there, and I think that can be really funny. And if you do get early enough, you could just bounce something to hand, which can be pretty good in some cases. So again, just one of, I think it's fine. And of course, I run 4 of the big boss monster himself, Shakamon. And I just really like it just because of the fact that it can be really defensive and really offensive whenever you need it. just because of the fact that all your security minus turns into plus, so you can just deal a lot of damage whenever you want, along with the fact that its protection is kind of solid just because you get to kind of play out your level 5s if it's deleted or bounced to hand a deck, which can come up against a lot of decks, which I think is really solid. And its removal, I wish it was a little bit better, but you know, it is what it is sometimes. But it's still kind of nice just to basically have like a chaos deck on a level 7, which is really funny since you can also constantly apply again -1, and the only reason you want 4 is just because you want to see him as much as possible. Now moving on to Tamers, and in my case I was running 2 Taikaris and 2 TK from BT1 and the dual Tamers from BT9. And this one's pretty nice just because say if they start chipping you early, you get to gain a little bit extra memory, which is really nice. And it's also really helpful if you start chipping with your rookies as well, because if you are able to gain the 2 memory, you're able to basically cross without passing turn. And the -2s to security can come up sometimes just in case if you're fighting a deck that kind of has a lot of big bodies, especially in EX6 where you might face a demon lord deck, so that way say your Venus Swan might be able to survive just a little bit longer, which is really nice. Same thing with your Valgymon because it's an ace. And TK is just there again for the memory setting and the fact that you do run a lot of yellow, so obviously you can grab just any piece you want from security. And now let's just go over the options, and in this case I was running 3 Crimson Blaze along with 4 Fireball. Crimson Blaze is still a really good card, especially in this format, just because a lot of stuff want to play by effects and they also do sometimes go wide. So again, this is just a really good card overall. And Fireball is another 2-cost draw card, and it also has the added bonus of possibly deleting a 3k. So you obviously don't want to see floodgates on the board, so just deleting it with this could be really helpful. And again, 2-cost draw whenever you do get it is also again really helpful, and in this case I was just running at 4 so I can see as much as possible as well. And now let's go with some cards I think you could run if you want to change up the list. And I think this one's gonna have quite a bit of cards just because of the fact that I think there's a lot of decent utility stuff you could put in the deck if you wanted to just mix up stuff. And if you want to go blue base, I think that the EX4 Mistymon could be kind of nice just because you do want to have a lot of Digimon on board. The on-deletion could come up, and I think it's probably the best blue egg in this case. And if you want to go yellow base, you could either do Cubimon from BT1 or BT3 Upamon. And this is just because you could swing early and draw 1, and if you do recover quite a bit, you could still get the draw, and I think it's kind of okay. And the Upa is of course just there for later on in the game. And actually, if you want to go purple base, I think the Bt16 Demi Mirror could be decent since you do run a lot of level 5, so I think the on deletion would come up quite a bit, so you can draw 2 more cards. And if you still want to use some Geomons, I think this one from BT9, the Geomon X, and the EX4 Geomon could be kind of nice just because this one is just a rushful game for later on, and this one can delete Floodgate, which is pretty nice, and you also you get the Evo, so that's another draw, so obviously that's really good. And of course there's the BT15 Mujamon. When one of your red Digimon attacks a player, you draw 1, so often this could just be a replacement for the draw Geomon, the one that I use in my list. So again, if you just want to use this one, go ahead. And of course I'm also going to say just any floodgate for any color, you can also use those ones as well, and I think they're still really useful. So again, depending on what base you go, just put in floodgates as much as you want and as much space as you can handle. And if you want to go blue base, you could actually just run the LM Jellymon. If you have 7 or less cards in hand, you draw 1, and I think this is kind of nice just because you can promote it early and still get draw, and you could just leave it on board, so that way when you Digi-Cross, you have to waste 2 cards. So I imagine you could meet the 7 less cards in hand quite frequently with this. And if you want to go yellow base, I think the Salamon X Antibody and the EX1 Salamon combo really well together, just because not only do you get to add a card from your security, you also get immediately access to the inherit, which is really nice because again allows you for a lot of early swings and a lot of early draws. And if you want to go purple base, I think the BT2 Taviamon is pretty good because it's just on relation draw 1, and the Starter Deck 16 Goblinmon is also kind of nice just because it also has the memory gain effect, and you could just swing with this one and get the Demi Mirror effect, so that's kind of nice. And if you want to just play other random ultimates, I think Nightmon, again, the Perma one could be decent, only because of the fact that you do sometimes play a bunch of bodies, so obviously this can kind of help just because you get DP minus and it sets up for your aces for later. And as you're probably going to see in a bit, it's also Paul Black, so that could come up. And if you want to, you could also want Andrew on ace, just because it's a level 5 and it's a cheap body, so you can just give something minus 6k. And then obviously if you have fearless, you can recover, so this can help you stall out more. And also I've seen a lot of lists also run Raiji Ludo, the EX6 one, because it gives a taunt effect like Edamon. And again, since you would want some aces, this can come up quite a bit, I imagine. So again, use it if you want. And for another ace, you could also run Vikemon, since you do want some black ultimates that mostly being Shokai. And again, if you want to, the Nightmon and Digivolve, it's still really good. And if you do just catch them in moments when they have a Digimon with one less source, the one attacking is super effective in that case. And some other megas you could also run, that would have to be Ophanimon Ace and Quantumon. Again, you run yellow stuff, so Quantumon can be kind of nice just because it removes the body along with potentially being immune to anything that you want if you can guess the right card. And again, that's just a really powerful effect. A fine one ace is just here because it's similar reason to Andro one ace, where it minuses DP along with potentially recovering you if it's your opponent's turn, and I think that's just really good. Also, I forgot to mention, you could also run Death X, and I think Death X really works, especially in this deck, just because you don't really have a lot of good removal, and just wide bow Digivolve is also really solid. And now onto some tamers. I think that the TK Kari dual tamer from Bt16 is also really good, just because again, if your opponent starts chipping you early, you can just gain a ton of memory. And the TK Izzy from BT9 is also really good, just because again, in your case, you also do want a lot of level 5s or higher, so gaining one memory at least for you is also really good. I also forgot to mention, if you want to, you could also run the BT12 Sagomon and the BT12 Goku, just because you do run a lot of security minus stuff, so obviously these could just be cheap buys to play, so that way you can either just have more buys on board, or just potentially get another ace out if they're not be able to remove a lot of bodies. And again, back to tamers, if you want to, I think Cody could be a solid pick, just because you do run a lot of yellow Digimon, and the fact that you do want a lot of dual color level 6s, you could also just soften them up, and I think it can combo off with Valkyriemon pretty well. And use this just here just because it's another soldier, and since you do want again a lot of level 5s with at least one soul spear minimum, you could be able to again just steal a little bit of memory and hatch for the next turn, just in case if you couldn't see a Yukamon or something. And for some options, Tron Gaia I think is your best red removal option, just because it has the potential to also trash the top card of your opponent's security, and I think that's really good. And if you want a more consistent draw card in comparison to Fireball, Hero of the Skies is pretty good, just because it will always draw you 2 no matter what. And for some blue options, Full Moon Medium Impact is pretty nice as just a bounce option. I think Ralstar can also really mess up a lot of wide decks, just because if they have 3 or more bodies, they obviously bomb deck it, and I think that can be really solid in clutch situations. And of course, you also have Heaven's Judgment. Since you do want a lot of dual stuff, this can just stack up randomly. And I think Holy Flame can be kind of nice, just because of the fact that it's 2 costs to give something -3, along with if they hit in security, it's just another massive 1 check minus, and that can be really funny sometimes, just in case if you couldn't hit everything. And that's pretty much my deck profile for the Journey to the West deck. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below, and also let me know how you have been enjoying the deck if you have been playing it. Again, I really like it. I think it's really flexible, it's just really fun. I'm just a really big fan of Shakamon itself, just because I really like its design. Again, thank you for all staying to watch my videos, and especially again, super thank you if you stayed to the end. Again, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Also follow my Twitter, which I will link down below. So again, see you guys later.